Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, Snapmare's own Lord Andy Coyne, and I am being joined by the person who will be joining me at the commentary desk at Deathmatch Downunder's very first show. This is Jessica Kyle. Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic today, Andy. Thank you very much. I'm getting so excited for DMDU's launch event. Absolutely can't wait. I'm looking forward to discussing our stacked card with you.
Absolutely, we do have an incredibly stacked card, and if you look across it, it is an absolutely awesome card. There's a great range of heavyweight battles. We've got the tag team tournament starting, and I'll be honest, I'm a little uneasy with the death matches themselves, being that I'm a sensitive soul. But Jessica, I know that you will hold my hand through this.
It's okay, Andy. I will indeed hold your hand. I will cover your eyes in the scary moments, and it will all be okay. We will get through it. We will get through it together.
We're going to get through it together. Excellent. But before we start, ladies and gentlemen, Deathmatch Down Under makes its debut on January 16th at the Arrow on Swanston. If you want to come, tough, because the tickets are already sold out. Gone. They went very quickly. I think there's a lot of demand for the blood, guts, and glory that's going to be on display. However, you can still watch it. It will be debuting on independentwrestling.tv from January 28th. So if you can't make the show live, shame on you, but don't worry, you will have that opportunity to watch it. Now, Jessica, I think the great news is that Deathmatch Down Under did in fact send us the match order as well. So we're going to go from the very opening match all the way to the main event. And we're going to kick off in style. It's going to be Smash Mouth Richie Taylor taking on the prodigy Tommy Knight. And I think it's fair to say this is going to be a battle of two strikers, but strikers of a very different style. You've got one who's used to being a little bit quicker, but Tommy Knight, he has a hell of a swing behind those strikes of his. Jessica, what are your thoughts going into this match?
Well, first of all, Andy, I am so excited. I really can't imagine a better opening match for our card. This is almost certainly going to be an absolute strong style war, and I think is really the perfect match to launch what DMDU is all about, which is violence. Now, you might say these two men are not competing in a death match. Where is the violence? If you say that, you obviously haven't seen either of these competitors throw a strike, because it is violent. They both hit bone-jarringly hard, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some injuries to come out of this card straight from the opening match. It's going to be fast, furious, hard-hitting, and these guys are going to hit each other very, very solidly indeed.
You know, I am looking forward to this. I'm very familiar with Smash Mouth Richie Taylor, and one thing I've really enjoyed is seeing the rise of his credibility within the scene, within the wider Australian wrestling scene. And he was really catching on fire. And unfortunately for him, a pandemic decided to hit, which obviously
that pesky pandemic.
Goddamn COVID. And it obviously stopped his momentum, but he has a real opportunity to get right back on the horse. However, his opponent, although not as experienced as Richie, Tommy Knight, he's a 3-year pro, but he calls himself the prodigy, and with very good reason. This is the man who actually defeated Bronson Reed, NXT's Bronson Reed, in Bronson Reed's final match. And I think Tommy Knight is really going to encapsulate what DMDU is all about with their heavyweight division. Now, I know a lot of promotions have a heavyweight championship, but I know with Deathmatch Down Under, they want to get some of the best heavyweights in this country, and you can't look at better than Tommy Knight. I think it's going to be a real hard-hitting contest, one way or another.
Yes, Tommy Knight, certainly a heavyweight, well over 100 kilos, and has been trained by some fantastic names. Has spent time in the New Japan Pro Wrestling LA dojo with Katsuyori Shibata. Anyone who's seen him knows, very well known for his strikes, his kicks. Tommy Knight is bound to follow in his mentor's footsteps, and is probably going to give Richie Taylor a good taste of the fists, the feet, all of the strikes in this exciting opening match, Andy.
Yeah, it's going to be a definite striker contest. Now, obviously, we could continue to analyse this, but we'll do that at the commentary desk. Let's move on to the next card. As I mentioned, Deathmatch Down Under have a tag team division, and we will see 2 opening round contests. And the first one is JXT and Fox, as the team known as Blacklisted, taking on Avery, the MCW Women's Champion. And she'll be tag teaming up with the Oceanic Daydream, Curtis Day. Really interesting pairings there. Jess, any initial thoughts when you saw that on the card?
Well, in seeing Fox and JXT listed on the card, I do have a feeling they probably believe they should just be handed the DMDU tag titles. They certainly have the experience, both as individual competitors, and I think are one of the more experienced teams who are in our tag team title tournament. And yes, they probably think they are entitled to the belts. They certainly have the ego for it. And they certainly do think that, they
nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Yes,
exactly
very nice.
right. Yes. So they're probably going to waltz in full of confidence, thinking that their advancement in this tournament is all but a given. But I don't think it's going to be that easy. Avery, very crafty, usually gets a win any way she can in all the promotions that she's worked for. And Curtis Day, a relative unknown, but I think that's what makes him a force to be looked out for. People do not know what to expect from Curtis Day. He obviously wants to prove himself both to our audience and to the world on IWTV.
Do you know, I'll quickly talk about Blacklisted. I have quite a personal history, both with JXT and Fox from previous promotions that we've worked for. Now, they've given themselves the name Blacklisted for a reason. A number of promotions have stopped using them, usually due to, well, let's say, political differences backstage. I'm a little nervous seeing them, but hopefully we'll be able to shake hands and we'll all be able to move on our professional merry way. But the one guy that I'm really interested in, Curtis Day. So recently we actually had a filming at the No Holds Barred itself. The Deathmatch Downunder team came down and we interviewed some footage. We got some interviews and I had a chance to talk to Curtis Day. Curtis, not a man that I've met before. Talking to the young man was absolutely fascinating. And this is someone who was seeing the same problem that a lot of young wrestlers see, where he's looking for that opportunity. So he's kind of tried out with various promotions. And because certain promotions are sort of looking for an entertaining character, or they're trying to fit him in a certain mold, they've kind of gone, all right, Curtis, we've got a spot for you on the card. Try this. And he was getting frustrated because he felt that he wasn't really being himself. Now, you know, I know he was speaking to Deathmatch Downunder, and Deathmatch Downunder, from my understanding, wanted to give him the best possible opportunity for him to be him. And I think this is a great opportunity for him. He can go in there comfortable in his own skin, and they paired him up with one of the best wrestlers at the moment in Australia, in Victoria and Australia as a whole, in Avery. And I reckon their teaming can go 50-50. Maybe there'll be magic and maybe they'll move on to the next round. Maybe it won't work, but the odds are most definitely in their favor.
I think it will be, Andy. And to your point, if Curtis Day has sort of been pigeonholed by various promotions and boxed into something he's not, I think this is really his time to flourish in Deathmatch Down Under. He's been given the freedom to be himself, and I think it will allow him to creatively express himself, be the best athlete and the best competitor he can possibly be. And I think this is going to be a fantastic contest in our tag team title tournament.
And speaking of the tag team tournament, the next opening round, we'll see Aisha tag up with your boy Murdoch. I love Murdoch. He is a drinker after my own heart. And I saw on Twitter that he's a big fan of the McRib. And I love the fact that that's a very controversial opinion. He's a brave boy who believes in high risk. And of course, they will be taking on the team of Fever Pitch Tyson Baxter and the Bleak City Saint, Aidan Miller. Now, Aisha and your boy Murdoch did reveal when we were doing interviews before the show that they didn't want to hide the fact that they are actually a real life couple. And I think that's really interesting. I don't know of many tag teams where they've actually been a real life couple as a tag team. And I think it's got me thinking about that sort of tag team chemistry and whether their nature of their chemistry is really going to help them in this tournament. But saying that, their opponents, Tyson Baxter and Aidan Miller, you know, they've been best friends for a very long time. You know, they are currently housemates as well. So again, there's that chemistry as well. I think it's going to be really interesting to see who has the better chemistry.
You are exactly right, Andy. So what we have here is not simply a showcase of four very exciting young talents, but also an interesting battle of tag team dynamics. They both have personal relationships with each other. They both have a long history. It's sort of who is going to have that better connection, who will be more in sync, who will have the better teamwork, who's been training together more, all these things like that. I think it's a very evenly matched contest where the advancement to the next round is really anyone's up for grabs. And I think this should be a very, very exciting match. There's a lot of talent, a lot of youth, and a lot of desire to get to that next step and potentially be the first ever Deathmatch Down Under tag team champions.
Now, I know that obviously with tag team wrestling, it's often about the sum being greater than all of their parts, but I do want to speak about each individual within this match, particularly Fever Pitch Tyson Baxter. I like to take the piss out of him backstage at shows, but actually I'm very fond of this competitor. He's a great competitor. He deserves a lot of success. My heart did go out to him when in 2019, he actually had an ACL injury that was quite severe that took him out of the ring for a very long period of time. In fact, a lot of fans actually helped raise the money to get him the surgery he required for that. I think that really goes to show that, fans could very well be behind the Fever Pitch himself. He came back, and when I saw him at MCW, you could always see that he was slightly favoring his leg on his return. So obviously we have had the pandemic. I think therefore he's had that extended amount of time, and I'm hoping that he's continued his therapy and that therefore he's really got a nice solid base now, that he's feeling more confident on his wheels, and that hopefully he's going to be all pistons firing when he enters this match. Now, his tag team partner, Aidan Miller, quite shamefully, I don't know a lot about him, but I did my research and I can see that he's a second generation wrestler, the current APW champion. In 2009, held 3 major Australian championships within the Victorian state. I think a lot of people, like myself, maybe they don't know about Aidan Miller, but he could be a real dark horse that really surprises a lot of people and can really snatch the victory away from Aisha and your boy Murdoch. And of course, talking about Aisha and Murdoch, Aisha, very technically sound, trained down at PCW, and in her stylings, in her matches, we've seen that real technical finesse, that's very strategic mindset come forward. Meanwhile, Murdoch throws caution to the wind and just throws himself like a madman around the house. And maybe that's what's going to make them such a great tag team. They're two very different people. But if Aisha can keep Murdoch focused, sort of use his strengths and maintains the strategy, that could be a really solid pairing.
I think so, Andy. I think you're exactly right. They will balance each other out. Murdoch's high-risk style will be balanced out by Aisha's calculatingness and always thinking several moves ahead, trying to outsmart the opponent. As you said, Tyson Baxter will probably come back very well recovered with no niggling signs of his surgery. And Aidan Miller, proven championship experience, has held a lot of gold. I think he would like to add the DMDU tag team titles to his collection. So let's see what happens.
Now, Jessica, I'm hoping you can take the lead on this match because next up, the first of our death matches, Cut Can and Gusset Plate Board death match for the UGWA Total Violence champion. It's going to be Joel Bateman taking on the sire of the barbed wire, Guido. Now, these two men, they're actually friends. They actually like each other. But for this championship, they are going to walk through hell itself to over this championship, and I just can't get my head around how violent this contest potentially could be. Jessica, I really want to know your thoughts.
I can hear that you're already a little bit scared there, Andy. I have to admit, I am as well. This implement that these two men are going to be using in this match does sound rather horrifying. Cut Can and Gusset Plate. Lot of sharp things on that board. We're definitely going to see some people get cut up. We're going to see blood. We're going to see a lot of torn up backs, hands, legs, arms, you name it. These two men are not going to be the same walking out of that ring as when they walk in. But for two men who have literally been bleeding for deathmatch wrestling for a combined several decades, I don't think we can comprehend what it means to both of them to be able to walk out of this match with the UGWA Total Violence Championship. Think about it this way, Andy. There are currently no other deathmatch titles in Australia. DMDU is the first ever promotion in Australia spotlighting deathmatch wrestling. Therefore, it serves to reason that the responsibility, but also the honor of being the man who holds this title, the UGWA Total Violence Championship, will represent deathmatch wrestling in Australia And I'm sure that these two men both want that responsibility and that honor more than anything. And as you said, will be prepared to put themselves through unimaginable hell for that. So a lot of emotion and a lot of pride at stake in this match.
Do you know, I've known Joel Bateman for quite a few years. We love to go out for a beer together. And I obviously asked him about what it would mean to hold the UGWA Championship. And as you said, I think for Joel Bateman, a man who had to spend quite a bit of time on the shelf with a shoulder injury, got to make his return only for COVID to come along and kind of go, yeah, you're just going to have to wait another year. For him to win the championship, I think will send a massive, strong message to the wider world that Deathmatch Downunder truly is a very serious promotion and that Joel Bateman wants to put a spotlight on Australian wrestling. But then recently, Guido did make a comment on his social medias that actually he too would love to bring the spotlight to Australia as well. And I think that might have thrown Mr. Bateman for a loop. I think it's going to be a very interesting battle in that regard. They're friends, but only one of them can be the UGWA champion.
Yes, well, Guido does reside here in Melbourne now, so I guess we can call him an adopted Australian. So we have this interesting dynamic and battle between an Australian who wants to win that title for Australian wrestling and an adopted Australian saying, I also want to represent the people in Australia in this style of wrestling. And neither one is going to be willing to budge for that. So, yeah, that can and gusset board is going to get a real workout, I think. And yeah, let the blood spill, Andy. Let the blood spill.
Now, after that match, we are going to have an interval, which is probably a good idea, considering we're going to have to sterilize and clean a few things. But then
lots of disinfectant coming out.
And then we're going to come straight back to another death match. This time, a tag team,
more sharp things,
death match with Raw Beef taking on Heavyset Violence, Michael Weaver and Mad Dog. Now, I'm obviously very familiar with Weaver and Mr. Dog, but I'm not very familiar with Raw Beef. So I was asking around, and the way people described them to me was a lot of comparisons to 3 Minute Warning. You're basically talking about two real big badass Samoans who are just looking to throw people through things. I'm very excited for that. That sounds amazing to me. But they've got to take on two of the most experienced deathmatch wrestlers in this country. It's going to be youthful exuberance and a lot of meat, taking on the veteran experience of Mad Dog and Michael Weaver. Who's your money on out of interest?
So another one here, much like our opening match, very hard-hitting and violent. Heavyset Violence. Michael Weaver literally has violence in his moniker. This man has lariated a path of destruction all through South Australia, very well known for his lariat, but also has no problem getting a little bit sick over on the deathmatch side of things. Has been known to fly the deathmatch flag over in South Australia. His partner, Mad Dog, I don't think needs any introduction. He's probably done more death matches than some members of our roster have had wrestling matches, period. The man is probably an Australian living legend of wrestling. But Raw Beef, not to be underestimated. They'll be hungry to prove themselves, no pun intended. They have experience as a team. They have won tag team titles previously. Strong, athletic, unpredictable. This one will not be for the faint of heart. I think you'll have just enough time to recover from our previous match, Andy, before we're right back into the barbed wire board. But it's certainly going to be a spectacle and a fantastic match.
So coming up after that, the one match I'm so looking forward to. I never thought I'd get to see this match. And Christmas, I'd say Christmas has come late, really, technically speaking. But it's going to be Cavemanugg going up against the Olympian, the Commonwealth champion himself, Jake Andrew Arthur, the final boss of Australian wrestling. We talked about how Deathmatch Downunder really wants to legitimize the heavyweight of the heavyweight division. Two of the best heavyweights in the country today. On one hand, Jake Andrew Arthur, this judo machine who we've seen manhandle people within the ring. One of the best win-loss records in Australia, I might add. And he's taken on Cavemanugg. But Cavemanugg is not a pushover. He currently holds the MCW Inter-Commonwealth Championship and the PWA Heavyweight Championship. I honestly don't know who's going to win this one. It's very hard to pick.
I'm with you, Andy. Yep, two giant men. We have several great heavyweights on the card here. It seems like every match has at least one large hitting, beefy person ready to throw forearms, throw hands. Jake Andrew Arthur can do that, but as you said, has that judo background, very, very technically sound. You called him a machine, and obviously he has such a train hard his whole life to let me start again. Jake has had to train his whole life very hard in order to achieve these accomplishments. He pretty much is a machine. He can go on autopilot and just destroy people, throw them around, exert his will. And he's on a bit of a streak at the moment, several wins in a row. So I'm sure he's not willing to take that loss to Cavemanugg, and will be coming with everything he's got to the man from the caves.
See, one thing I find very interesting, but actually very frustrating as well, professionally speaking, is that for Jake Andrew Arthur, despite having one of the best win-loss records, it does seem to me that championship opportunities seem to go by him. He doesn't seem to get a lot. In fact, I'm not even sure if he has ever had a one-on-one championship opportunity, but he's stepping into the ring with Cavemanugg. He currently holds two of the most highest regarded championships in this country. If he can win, no one's going to be able to ignore his championship credibility, whether it's in another promotion or here as Deathmatch Downunder eventually moves towards crowning their first ever heavyweight champion.
That's right, Andy. And Jake will definitely use Ugg's current titles to springboard himself should he be victorious. How will it look to DMDU management, other promotions in the country, for Jake to defeat Ugg, who is the current PWA champion? It will show that he can hang at that level and is done with being ignored. So Jake will definitely be looking to prove himself at our show.
And just in fairness to Cavemanugg, let's obviously not overlook him, because this is a guy, he's held the PWA championship for over 2 years now. He defeated Bronson Reed for that championship. He actually defeated Danny Psycho for the MCW Intercommonwealth Championship. He's bowled over some incredibly impressive heavyweights to win those championships. He is the man to beat in Australian wrestling, and I can't wait for this contest.
Yeah, certainly, Andy. Ugg definitely can't be ignored. He is the champion for a reason. Very, very athletic for a big man. I've seen him do some absolutely amazing things. Very light on his feet. Can move around that ring like lightning. Even been known to go to the top rope. So this is going to be a very, very interesting contest with Jake's mat-based skill combined with Ugg's hybrid style.
Now, finally, the main event. We're going to see Australia's most violent man, Damien Rivers, a man who truly prides himself on being a part of the deathmatch community, a man who has grinded, who has earned it, who has been trying to put a spotlight on deathmatch wrestling for a number of promotions here in Australia. And he's taking on somebody who calls himself Nobody, Callum Butcher. And Callum, when I spoke to him, a very softly spoken man, which I thought was quite surprising. But this is someone who he felt downhearted, because it looks like he's trying to find his identity in Australian wrestling, and something about deathmatch wrestling he's fallen in love with. And he wants a massive deathmatch win and to become part of deathmatch wrestling lore here in Australia. And Damien Rivers, to put it mildly, is pissed off that he is trying to use this to springboard and give himself relevancy. Two very different philosophies going into this match, and they're going to fight. And tell you one thing, if Callum Butcher wants to earn it, he's going to have to figuratively and literally crawl through the shattered splinters of 100 light tubes.
I can only imagine what that's going to look like, Andy. 100 light tubes. First time in Australia, I do believe. With a match like this, there's no doubt it's going to be a true spectacle and a taste of what deathmatch wrestling really is. Probably the first time a lot of our crowd are going to witness something like this. But it's not just a spectacle, as you said, a very, very large amount of emotion at play in this match. Damien Rivers, he's devoted his career to the deathmatch the deathmatch craft, I should say. He deserves this spot in the main event, and he will not want to lose this match on this history-making occasion. But as you said, on the other hand, we have Callum Butcher, fairly young career that he's spent not really knowing who he is, trying to fit into various roles, various molds. And as you said, kind of now considers himself a nobody. He does not know who he is. He doesn't have an identity, probably doesn't have much confidence. Now is his chance to really prove himself. See, this is who I am. I can hang with Damien Rivers. I'm tough enough for this. I can do this deathmatch stuff and be very good at it. So a lot of emotion here. As you said, Damien Rivers, the exact word I had, he's pissed off. He is not happy that Callum Butcher is coming into his domain. He thinks this is not Callum's calling, but rather a spot of convenience. And Damien Rivers is going to take every ounce of nasty attitude and several dozen of those 100 light tubes and try and do as much damage to Callum Butcher as he can in this match.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I would really love it if they didn't have to go down the deathmatch route. I'd love it if this was a classic battle of headlocks and collar elbow tie-ups. It is what it is, 100 light tubes. And, you know, beyond the violence of the stipulation, my heart does go out to both of them. I can totally understand where Callum Butcher is coming from, that you see an opportunity and you want to go for it. But as gnarly of an individual as Damien Rivers is, I get it. I totally understand it. The idea that you've been working so hard to be the very best at what you do, and somebody comes along and maybe Callum Butcher is trying to use it as a springboard. Maybe this is just a fleeting fancy. And, well, I guess we're going to find out what both men are truly made of in the main event at Deathmatch Downunder.
Yeah, well, of course, in the world of professional wrestling, Andy, nobody wants to share their spot. I'm sure Damien Rivers doesn't want, quote-unquote, new kid on the block, Callum Butcher coming in and sharing the spotlight at the top of the deathmatch card. He sees it as a slight. He doesn't want to, and he doesn't want to just beat him. He probably wants to eliminate him so that this spotlight no longer needs to be shared. So the danger of this match is just magnified tenfold by the emotion at play and the fact that Damo probably does not want Callum around in the future whatsoever.
No, I can totally understand that. I try to commentate the show on my own, but apparently I got lumped with you. Anyway, moving on quickly so you can't respond.
To watch my back now, Andy.
I've hired assassins everywhere. But Jessica Kyle, thank you very much for joining me. It's great to have this pre-chat before the show itself. Really looking forward to commentate on it. Like I say, I'm going to be closing my eyes and clutching my pearls for most of those death matches. But I think you could agree there's a lot of variety on this show. It's not just about the death matches. There's a heavyweight division. We've got a tag team division. There's a lot of young guys coming in looking for that opportunity. This really is a land of opportunity. Oh, God, I sound like Shane McMahon. It's a land of opportunity. And I think Deathmatch Downunder is going to have a great future because of it.
Indeed, Andy. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure discussing our upcoming card with you. Can't wait for Saturday, January 16th for Out Come the Wolves by DMDU. Very excited.
And if you want to come, don't forget, it's sold out.
Sorry.
But don't worry, you can watch it on independentwrestling.tv on the 28th of January. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Jessica Kyle, and I have been Lord Andy Coyne. Thank you, and we'll see you at ringside.